everybody, it's Kevin, and it's Donna, and welcome to another episode of MedList. Today, Donna, we're kind of going into something that it's funny. This weekend was super hot, very unmotivating to go out and exercise or do anything physical. A lot of just like laying around, enjoying the modern convenience of air conditioning, maybe a little bit of pool time with the boys. What about you? Did you have a rest and relaxation kind of weekend?
I did, but I think a little bit opposite. It was the perfect weekend summer weather and enjoyed walking and just swimming in the lake. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful weekend. So very nice to be outside for me.
Oh man, I think getting out and making some of the decisions to get out, like and to do things, is just part of the equation, right? For a lot of us, when it comes to healthcare decisions, and you and I on the show, we talk often about how to make some of those decisions with your meds, and then everything around the med list in general. And our guest today, just a wealth of experience, coming from everything in the fitness world to the wellness space to understanding behavioral psychology. So I'm really looking forward to this one. So if you are a parent trying to motivate kids, if you are a coach trying to motivate athletes, if you're a clinician trying to motivate patients, or if you are a person trying to motivate yourself, this is one to listen to. We'll jump right in. All right, without further ado, I'll bring Mike to the stage.
Yeah. So we are just so excited to have Mike Waters with us today. And Mike Waters had the honor of being the original fitness director of Timber Hill Athletic Club when it opened in 1980. His training in adult exercise science is in heart and chronic disease prevention. Mike has brought a fitness as medicine philosophy to his program design wherever he's been in over 40 years in the field. He also managed the Corvallis HP Worksite Health Program for 14 award-winning years. Mike's experience today is in motivational strategies for adults interested in being healthy, but having a hard time getting going. Mike is part of Fitness Over 50 team as a director of health promotion. For mature adult exercisers, Mike takes a holistic approach with each individual he works with. He helps people transition into the next stage of their life through a healthy lifestyle. And that speaks volumes. We all need a little bit of that, don't we? And no matter our age, and that's what I love. I was looking at the videos of Fitness Over 50 program, and I was wowed by the different abilities of people that are actually going to that gym. And it just struck me that anyone at any age, at any time can start moving. So thank you for what you do and for your years of teaching us too. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for being with
us. Kevin, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for joining. So the audience knows Mike and I got a visit a little while back, and I was literally just like notepad in hand writing things down as Mike was educating me on all these components of life and behavioral philosophy. But Mike, if you could start us on kind of a logical spot, what was it like in the very beginning when you started your career? Like, what were some of the things that you first discovered, starting into that journey and kind of learned along the way? We'd love to hear about that.
Well, real quickly, so when I got into this, there was no fitness. There was no fitness degree program. Mm-hmm. So we're going back to the early 70s. Okay. So if you wanted to be involved in physical activity, you were a PE teacher. Okay. So my bachelor's is in health and PE. And so real quickly, I was coaching football. I was a young coach in San Jose, California. And I was coaching football at this high school. And the principal was an ex-football coach, which is normal. And so I can make extra money, they got me on the subler list. Now, I didn't have my credential. Then it was a credential, not a master's in education like it became. So they got me like an emergency credential. And I would have been the PE coach from hell. Okay. Which I'm going to come back to later on today. It's really interesting how that has followed me in my whole journey. But I wanted to coach athletes. See? And I remember talking to the head coach and some of the guys I coach with, and I go, "Oh my God, how could you do this for 30 years?" It was rolling out the balls, take and roll. You had to have a uniform, the whole bit, and a lot of the kids didn't like that experience. They didn't like that class.
Yeah.
And of course, later on, many years later, we learned why. So at San Jose State, they had a meeting. They were going to start a new program in exercise physiology. And the one thing I liked the area of measurement and evaluation. It was what we call a methods class. So doing fitness testing, and that includes even measuring body fat, which I just have so many negative. The athletes are easy, where you do skin folk calipers and you're pinching all over the body fat. But the non-athlete people, it was kind of scary. And so I got interested in that. So I got my graduate degree in exercise science and fitness is medicine. That was the era. YMCA trained. I started my career in the YMCA. And went through American College of Sports Medicine certification to do graded exercise testing. So technically, I could read EKGs, but really, you had to have a doctor in. You had to do doctor. So I had that kind of experience, that clinical experience. So It's very linear. It's very linear. And all the mentors of that time, Bill Haskell, he was at Stanford, president of ACSM, Peter Woods, who was at Stanford, in academia, all the Samuel Fox at Ohio State. I could name Jack Wilmore at Oregon. They all were predicting this future that everybody would be exercising. This also came at the same time. Now, you might find this interesting that of course, I'm in San Jose, which is the beginning of Silicon Valley. They were talking about 4-day work weeks. People would work 4 10s and have a 3-day weekend. Mm-hmm. And I had friends. San Jose State also had a big recreation degree program. I had friends that were, and so it's like, hey, we're going to recreate, we're going to have fun, we're going to do all this stuff. Well, recreation was tennis. Tennis and parks and things like that. And I actually taught tennis down there. I taught tennis, but we thought more people, this is the early 70s now. People would have all this time and they would buy into this new thing called prescriptive exercise.
Interesting.
Okay. And I even worked in cardiac rehab. I was at the Palo Alto YMCA. We didn't know if we were going to kill anybody. They took a chance. We had Peter Wood from Stanford. I forgot the cardiologist's name. So it was a joint effort with people from Stanford, from their medical system. And I was around brilliant people, but I was still a football coach. You can take me out a little bit. I was coaching at a small college in the peninsula. So, but that was the beginning. So my point of bringing that part of me, no fun, don't be social, very clinical. Yes. Yeah. Kevin, I want you to exercise 30, 45 minutes, 6 times a week at a target heart rate. I do all this. I do. So in 1980, when we opened up Timber Hill, and I owe my boss to this day. I mean, he hired me. I didn't get hired at Willamette full-time on faculty. I was coaching football there, but I was going to teach exercise science there, but I didn't get hired. So I needed the job. My Phi Beta Kappa Berkeley wife was going, what the hell are we doing up here? So he hired me. And so that was the beginning of my platform in adult fitness, the hardcore me. And it was no fun. We had, it was also that era too, as viewers, listeners can know, Jane Fonda came out with aerobics. And I was cynical of all this. It's like, wait, come on, look.
It's so funny when Mike comes back on there, Donna, to think about those days that all the cartoons and the movies that depict like the rope climbing and all the other activities that seem so brutal, today when it comes to physical education. Like Mike was that guy at the bottom of the rope yelling at that kid to get up faster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the drill sergeant. And it was like, I never really did that. It's like, oh God, I don't want to do this. This is just awful, So,
when was that epiphany moment, Mike?
Yeah.
Because you said originally you were okay with being hard on him and you were trying to whip him into shape and you're giving him the time amount and I'm sure all the metrics you wanted them to hit. When in your mind did you go, there's something that's missing here? Like there's something not fun about this?
Right away.
Okay.
I knew right away. See, there's a difference between, and still today. So you have the highly motivated exercisers, okay? Well, chances are, if we look in the data or we do life review with them, they played sports. So they had some physical proprioceptor skills, hand-eye coordination, cardiovascular skills, natural strength. It was automatic for them, okay? And a lot of them carried on with it, okay? So an example of that was when we were at HP, and I thought I put it on a thumb drive when we left. I wrote this article called The PE Coach from Hell, and it was my high school in San Jose, California. Well, I blind copied to over 4,000 employees on a distribution list that message. And I heard anything from the athletes and people I knew. Oh, I had a ball in PE. Coach Jones was great. Well, yeah, I knew that. Because I know who you are and you like it. Okay. But I also hear my tears are welling up, and I also knew them too, because I was coaching them, trying to use motivation techniques to get them in physical activity. So what we learned, I'm going to jump forward and say, we blew it. A lot of us in health promotion feel that the reason why most boomers, remember, we were the change people, Vietnam War era, hippies, we were going to change the world. We're on more meds and depend on the medical system than any generation. And yet we blew it. We had the wrong people teaching PE. And right from the get-go, from those stories, during that era, I learned, okay, that's why people are joining Timber Hill but not coming. I was feeling guilty. What did I do? I did a fitness test on them. I gave them a program. We're going to be healthy. I'm going to prevent heart disease. It's like, what did I do wrong? Well, I learned later, okay, a lot of them, it's like, I thought, God, I hope I wasn't the PE coach. Reminded them of the PE coach from hell when I was the fitness director there. See, it all kind of came together. So we blew it from the get-go with PE, the wrong people. It was athletic coaches. And when women's sports came in, or the women PE teachers at my high school, they were awful. They were awful. And we hadn't even started jogging yet. The running boom and Dr. Ken Cooper hadn't even started yet. But they were just awful. They were awful. We were jocks. They were just jocks. And I went to high school, and of course a lot of the HP employees came from the Bay Area. They were the science and the math and chemistry and quantum physics. They were brainiacs. They didn't like PE. They were nerds.
So tell us this then, Mike. I feel like what you're really pointing to is a fascinating thing we see in medicine, in all kinds of aspects of medicine, is we often want to have something that is a quick fix, right? If we're trying to develop a piece of technology, if we're trying to do a new clinic setting, if we're doing a new program, we want it to work and get someone from point A to point B. And sometimes we forget about what kind of traumas have we put individuals through? And so you're unpacking that we blew it because we caused trauma for a lot of these individuals that now they're either disinterested or literally afraid of going back into exercise because of the emotion that it kind of brings back. Am I hearing that correctly? Okay.
Absolutely. So we go into the world. So Bandera's work, Bandera from Stanford, a psychologist, in self-efficacy. And so it's interesting when I put that on, when I make a comment on LinkedIn and I put self-efficacy, the power of, do I have the confidence to do it? And some people, when I put it on there, they go, what? Tell me more. And I'll private message and think they don't understand. They don't get this stuff. There's other data. So in talks I do with people who are interested, I talk about, there's other data. So you guys are experts in your field. Okay. You're experts. No problem. Okay. If I entered your world, I would be the biggest imposter. I go, oh, God, I don't belong here in pharmacy, people. I didn't know. Now, I was a pharmacist mate to earn extra money a long time ago. But I'm an imposter. It's the same thing when in worksite health promotion, both in high tech I did, both at HP and other places. Yeah. Use a computer? Are you kidding? Are you a kid? I was an imposter. Being with engineers, people like my wife, I'm an imposter. See, and I learned that, okay, it's the same thing for those people coming into physical activity. Now, sometimes there's a merger. I mean, I knew a lot of engineers that were athletes, very comfortable, football players. I mean, I coached 3D linemen at Willamette. They're all computer science people. So sometimes it works, but for the most part, statistically, it doesn't. It's self-efficacy. Do I have belief? Taking meds. My friend John Crawford, the Kaiser Health Promotion Director, I would come into meetings up there in Portland, and there'd be the pharmacist in there. I can't take my patients to take meds. And he and I would look at each other and go, well, yeah, self-efficacy. I don't feel confident in being healthy. And I see that today in people. I saw that on the cruise I was on. When I learned all this, I wasn't, in the old time was, what's wrong with these people? You can even take your blood pressure medication, but understand the psychology, going through some bad experiences stays with them. And so I have a little more empathy for them. It's just not that simple. It's not that simple. Yeah.
So Mike, I'm curious, when you're talking about this, why aren't people coming to the gym kind of thing? They're signed up, but they're not coming.
Right.
And I kind of like seeing what you're talking about here. Does it take a crisis mode in order to motivate people, or are you able to do it another way prior to the crisis mode? I know when I talk a lot about deprescribing, don't wait for the hospitalization, don't wait for the fall, don't wait for the interaction, be proactive. And I think you're thinking that way too. So how do we not wait for that crisis to happen and get people in the gym now, or, thinking a little differently about, yes, you can, and to be motivated?
This is what I call a life course perspective topic. So you mentioned in the onset, what we're doing at Fitness Over 50 and everything like that.
Yeah.
What I've learned is, and it's anecdotal, it's anecdotal. I'm sure somebody's done some research on it, but people are at an age, they're taking the meds. They want to enjoy life. They want to go on a cruise. They want to travel. I mean, so at Fitness Over 50, all right, Corvallis, Oregon, and Kevin knows already, it's an overeducated university town. Corvallis ranks like number 5 in the nation per capita in the number of graduate and PhD, graduate degree programs. So people have money. Okay. So they want to travel, they want to enjoy the grandkids, so it's in adult learning, we call it something has to be relevant for people to change. And that's a big reason right there to motivate it. So when I did an intake with somebody, or I'm doing life review, what I call health life review with people in the fitness center, okay, it's like, well, tell me about your history. What keeps you coming? Why are you doing it? Well, I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go to Chile. There's one gal, Donna. Her name's Donna. I'm thinking of. She wanted to go to Chile, and so on her treadmill, she would start to raise the elevation when she walked. And I go, Donna, that's a little bit different. You don't normally do it. Well, I'm going to Chile because we're going to do the Andes Mountains. Okay, so there's relevance, there's a meaning to do it, but it's life extension. And I think that's what people do with I'm hoping with their meds too, is I want to be able to enjoy life. I'm at a point where I think people kind of put it off for a while. They're absolutely interested. I'm here to tell you, when I do talks to group, live, virtual, whatever, I'm here to tell you, most people are interested in being healthy. They just don't want too much. They don't want to be in a gym all day, but they want to be healthy. We in the health coaching world have to motivate people and get them on the right track. Okay. But I think, to reinforce your question, I think people get to a certain stage in life where I better start doing this because I want life extension. I don't want to be like my neighbor. I don't want to be like somebody I worked with at OSU or HP or wherever, or Harvard, or or Spokane. I don't want to be like that. I want life extension. I want some quality of life.
Mhm.
It's so interesting that the question you asked, Donna, about the fear factor, right? We can have several motivators in life, and you've seen some people maybe somewhat break it down at a too elementary level, but what are the drivers internally when it comes to hormones that make us do things? People usually break it down between dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Those are going to be the drivers to get you
through, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But when we're doing them, Mike, the ones that you mentioned right there there's some gratification component of, I want to make it to this trip. You have an external motivator that I want to do this thing, or I don't want this thing to happen to me. Those two things overall. But the one thing I wanted to make sure we unpack and get to is, even if we have those motivators right on the outside, you talked about some of the trauma, some of the things keeping us back from even looking at those things in the first place. What have you done or seen to be able to help people unpack that piece so they can actually look at those things? Because Donna and I, when it comes to patients we run into, oftentimes there's an aunt or an uncle or a family member that has had a similar health condition that maybe they're reflecting upon. Maybe they're thinking about that they had these things, and I don't want these things for me. But oftentimes that's too late for Donna and I, because that's after diagnosis, right? I've just been diagnosed with this, and now all of a sudden I'm thinking about these individuals. The preventative care side, the side to be able to eliminate medications, to keep someone healthy and avoid hospitalizations, or even using the healthcare system, is where I think a lot of us are very interested in many ways across the healthcare ecosystem. And that's a lot of trauma unpacking is what I'm hearing from you, Mike. What have you seen be successful to get people to go, I do need to do something about this, and I'm going to take that first step?
So I used it at HP, and I also use it at Fitness Over 50. So on my intake, I don't go to the trauma side.
Okay.
I know they're struggling.
Sure.
We don't need to go there. Okay. So empathetical listening. Okay. So now I'm going to use motivational interviewing techniques. So, Kevin, tell me about your exercise experience through the lifespan. Got plenty of time. Okay. What I find with most people, okay, is that there's a point in their time history of, I'm talking about physical activity, even nutrition,
Yeah.
When the stars were aligned, everything was perfect. They had the time. I see in their face enjoyment. I was in this gym in Spokane, Washington, or somewhere outside of Boston, or wherever we're at. There's some joy, and I go, okay, and so I mark that down. I let them continue. Okay, and then I get back to that. Tell me more about that. Oh, I did this and this and this and this and this and this, and it's like, how'd you feel? Oh, I felt great. Okay. So I see that. So if we look, I don't know if it was in the information I sent to you on the trans-theoretical model. Okay. Mm-hmm. In there where people, okay, so they're in action, they're doing it. And let's say that they're enjoying it. They're in action, they're enjoying it. Okay. So, but then relapse happens. On that list of why, okay, is life changes. So maybe they were having a good experience, and I'm working with you, and you're telling me about this place you were at, and it was great, and I belong to the Y or something, you know, and I did all I did all this, but then I got a new job, and I had to stop it. Oh, okay. Life changed it. So you relapsed, and you got out of the loop. But you're always, and this is where we talk about, you were always in contemplation. I will get back to it. Because we found most people are interested. Now, I found the same thing with nutrition. Okay, now not Weight Watchers or anything, a diet, but better eating pattern, not eating junk food. Because sometimes it's where we work, it's where we live, access to good foods, things like that. So the idea, so when I take all that, okay, why don't we get back to that experience you had years ago? Now, here's the key. Really? Yeah. Well, you told me you enjoyed it. I got it down. I saw it in your face. You enjoyed it. Well, I thought, this is the problem. You're the expert. I'm in the empowered expert. I'm going to tell you what to do. That's the old Mike. From many years ago. Okay. No, I'm not doing it. Let's do what you enjoy doing during that time. Let's get back to that. And sometimes it's easy, and it's like we're back in action again. And possibly, if life doesn't change, you stay in what's called maintenance. All I've done is like one conversation. That's all I've done. That's what I found. I found it at Fitness Over 50. I found people, because now I've got an older group, and it might be there. Not everybody's from Corvallis, Oregon. It's like I went to Williams College. You know where Williams is, of course. And I worked down at this place, and it's like, we just had a ball, and the equipment was lousy, but it worked. I just had loved it. Well, let's get back to that. Mm-hmm. Now, what I may do with the equipment, I say, okay, well, you don't have the same equipment. Well, let me show you something similar, because I'm familiar with all the exercise equipment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Yeah. Away we go.
That
the
level
joy in it, the enjoyment. That's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That personalization step is so interesting, Donna. And I've used it in technology groups that I've worked with previously, or the ones I'm working with today, on saying, how do we personalize the overall experience for the end user so that they feel like this is part of them or connection to them? How do we bring utility to them overall that Mike's kind of mentioning? And clinically, I know that both you and I have used this exact same tactic to be able to look at individuals and see what what motivated them for previous health encounters or things they've done for themselves to make themselves better. Any other thoughts, Donna, on what Mike's kind of laying out there when it comes to asking that very simple question and then letting the person realize they have their own answers?
Yeah, I have to say, personally, I had rolled my ankle a few months back, and I was really wanting to get back into running. And I was just like, gosh, this is terrible that I rolled my ankle and, setback kind of thing. And can I tell you how excited I am to being back to running? And I'm not going very far because I don't want to re-injure. And I'm just trying to build up reasonably. But man, it makes me so darn happy. And to think like, not only, yeah, I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy this morning because it's a beautiful morning and I want to get out and I want to get that in today. But when I get back, I'm like, yeah, I did it. And it feels good. My ankle still feels good. And so like some of those things are, you can think about those experiences. And I love that idea. So thinking about like, how did you feel at this time? How did you feel when, this was going on? I think that that's in what worked for you then. I think that that is magical for people and hopefully trying to figure that out. I'm going to do, and I do this often and talk about my mom on this show, but the other day I went to go see her at a different time. I knew that there was a walking group and my mother walked years ago. And I'm like, come on, Mom, let's do this walking group. And she was so excited, so happy, so smiling when I got her out with just a couple of other people. But it was a walking group. And I'm like, look at this smile. And it was, again, just magical. So I think when people can just enjoy that, like you're talking about, I think that that's great. And so I'm going to just take a second and think about too, people don't realize how bad they feel at times. They get into a rut, if you will, or they get unmotivated and, kind of snowballs kind of thing. Life changes. And we can say that even about medicine too, like, oh, now I'm taking all this stuff or I don't feel well. Something might have been making them very fatigued over time. So they're not motivated and they blame it on other things too. So I think looking at both, you talk about exercise as medicine, but maybe medicine is stopping you from exercising too. And I think then you're adding on more medicine because of that, because you're not moving and you're not getting the benefits. So I think that there's a lot there of, looking at this whole cycle and why it's important we have these conversations and that we stay motivated and that we work with providers and talk to the patients and say,
right.
What do you need?
Right. Yeah.
You mentioned something in there, Mike and Donna, but Donna, about your mom, that walking group, Mike, I would love to hear more about your thought on overall group activities. We talked about the serotonin component, like what makes you happy, like thinking back and reflecting on Donna recovering from that sprained ankle. And now she's excited. She's back to doing something she loves, and you're able to tease that out of someone and motivate them to take those next first steps. Have you seen pieces of trying to incorporate group activity or other group related components that we often attribute to like oxytocin inside of programs? And can you speak to that at all, Mike?
Remember what I said up front? I said during the aerobic, we had aerobics with Jane Fonda and all that. And I just I've said this at a conference, at a fitness conference, and I said it on LinkedIn. Group exercise has saved the fitness industry.
Wow.
And I don't get anybody arguing with me. Mm-hmm. We had the era, it was around early 2000, around 2010. I know it was happening nationally. I know it was happening nationally. The era of the boutique studios. So the big URSA clubs like Timber Hill is, in fact, URSA's their headquarters is in Boston. I know Spokane's got, Tri-City's got a big athletic club. These are called URSA clubs. So they have everything. They have basketball, swimming, everything. Well, they have group exercise. Okay. So the competition nationally, these little studios, like Bar 3, yoga had been going on, but now we had Pilates, Bar 3, Zumba, even a high level aerobic studios were independent owners, and they might have taught at these big URSA clubs and said, I'll just have my own company and everybody will come over with me. So the URSA clubs started back, they fought against that because that was the new trend.
Right.
That was the new trend, was group exercise. So I say to this day, group exercise saved. So what I would do when I was at Timber Hill Athletic Club before I went to Fitness Over 50, if I went to a health fair, I would know my market, the age demographic, and I'd have the group exercise director make a handout, a hard copy handout of if Tai Chi, a certain yoga, Zumba Gold. So if I knew there were a lot of boomers or olders, have Zumba Gold, over the mark. Don't promote the whole club. Promote what people are interested in. Group exercise. So
wow.
I finally used my brain for the change. The new data was coming in on social support is healthy. So I tell this story, especially when engineers are in the group, because I's married to one. So I'm doing this talk on men's health at HP, men's health, okay? And I do heart and, cancer, prostate, the whole thing, the usual suspects, okay? And I go, now I want to talk to you about the most deadliest disease for men. And everybody's got their green engineering pads ready to write this down. And I said, social isolation. And the place got quiet. And Mark, I'll use his name because it's been over 20 years, raised his hand. He said, Mike, how many minutes a day, how many times a week do I have to be social? I thought everybody was going to laugh, but they all looked like I was going to ask the same question. I said, Mark, this is not a linear equation that needs to be met. Of course, these are all engineers. So when I tell it to groups, they get a good laugh of it. So the data was coming in. So part of the group exercise experience, it's social.
Yeah.
Now they talk about accountability. I'm accountable to a friend, and I've interviewed people. No, it's I would go anyway, but the socialization just enhanced it.
Yeah.
It saved Timber Hill Athletic Club. Even today they have over 90 hours a week of group exercise classes, spin classes, yoga. They've taken down a couple racquetball courts and made them group X studios.
Wow.
And yet, the fitness equipment industry, Precor, Life Fitness, all of them, they're trying to make a better mousetrap. You've got ellipticals, you've got treadmills, you've got bikes now, they've got computers in them, they've got TVs, the best weight machines, everything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That is a isolated situation. Now, I like doing that. I read sports. Don't ask me what I've read 10 minutes from now, but I read sports. Okay. But group exercise is powerful. It's very powerful.
Yeah. There's so much on that now too, which I absolutely love, and the importance of the socialization part. A study had just come out, and they actually did intense lifestyle versus the new Alzheimer's medications, and side-by-side studies of, the same criteria that's being used by the FDA to see if these medicines are working, and this intense lifestyle change. And one of the big things was actually putting numbers down to, you need this much time of socialization, like you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
exercise. So but you're right. Like some people do need to know that. And I also love the idea too. Dr. Sanjay Gupta was interviewed once and said, "What's the most important thing we can do for our brains?" This is about keeping sharp, his book. And it was grab a friend, go for a walk, and talk about something really important. And because you're using so much of the key factors, you're figuring things out, you're walking, you're talking, you're amongst friends. And so there's all of that that's so important in keeping your brain sharp too. So it's out there. No, go ahead.
No, I've enjoyed the run. The running life has been a good life.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody this on the cruise. So I've run, I know, God knows how many marathons. Okay. But what I enjoyed most in that experience is the friends I ran with. I mean, we're out there for 3.5, 4 hours and we're talking. And you're sharing dark secrets. You're sharing stuff. It's men, running with men. I ran with women, but running with men, it's men stuff. And it's like you said, you get stuff out in the open. You feel better. So the running itself is just part of it. So I got to a point where I enjoyed running with these guys more so than running the marathon himself, because we never ran together.
Right.
We didn't run. It was the training we did. And I tried to explain that to people. And it doesn't have to be running. It has, you cited walking. It could be walking groups together.
Yeah.
It's great therapy. It's great therapy. Well, and that's the whole thing about health coaching. So with motivational interviewing, Rolnick and Miller, they're two psychologists. And they invented motivational interviewing, and it's just getting people to talk things out, and they'll figure it out. And that's when I learned that. It's like, okay, great. I don't mind listening to people. I listen to their stories. So I was using MI techniques throughout my career, but the early me was I got to give you some prescriptive exercise because that's my job. I got to stamp out heart disease. But it was just, tell me about yourself. We would do like you guys probably do a health intake. So we would do the Risco and we do the health intake and all this stuff. But I'd end up going, Kevin, where were you when you did this? Well, I was da 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 da. Where were you here? Where were you? It's like it started taking me on the journey. It was interesting, and what I found out is the people. Earlier in Corvallis, Oregon, the people, it wasn't how much what I knew, it's that I cared about them by just listening. I wanted to hear their story, fascinating stories, where they came from, why did they come to Corvallis, why, and it was just, that's motivational interviewing is what it is.
I think there's something interesting, Mike, that you're really uncovering inside of that is, we get wrapped up so often in healthcare in general, fitness, of having the right answers all the time for patients. And that the information has to be comprehensive and written the appropriate way and delivered to these individuals in X, Y, and Z format so it can be highly consumable. But the one thing that I feel like we do a really poor job of is knowing if people care about what we're saying, or if they care about that information that's being delivered in general. Like, is it meaningful to you, to consume this? Is it meaningful for you to take it and apply it, into life overall? Right. And so you really detailed out like the personalized medicine piece of giving that detailed story, breaking it down onto where these folks identify that moment in time that they can connect with, looking at the group exercise components and that oxytocin release of saying, I need other people to make this a meaningful experience. Where have you seen, I'm going to go back to the kind of the wellness experience. Now we've got someone involved. Like, let's say that we have them, they've signed up for the program. They've gotten in, they like the group activity. They remember that childhood event they want to replicate, but now they got to do it, right? They got to do it for a prolonged period of time. And we've got to motivate them, or they've got to motivate themselves to continue, with that kind of process. What have you learned over the years, Mike, there? The things that didn't work before, the things that do work now, the things that have evolved, Give us some thoughts on that piece in this last segment of the episode.
It's real basic. It's okay. It's simple but complex. So you need one, the practitioner needs to be a health coach that knows how to use motivational interviewing techniques, that empathetical listening. There's certain characteristics they need to have. Okay. Because what you have to do with the client is you have to get trust. Mm. Now, the motivated people, intrinsically motivated people already, they're comfortable. They have that trust. Okay. But for the low motivated population, I call it the low motivated population, they have to trust you because they've had the PE coach from hell. They've had the personal trainer from hell. They come to you. And the way I would do it now, I have a presentation I did on our program at HP, but the way I would do it is we would have a different topic. We do something on parenting. Oh, it's from the health promotion program. I would introduce the speaker. Okay. It's him. Okay. He's not, this is different. Now, I wouldn't wear a necktie because they told me they'll think you're from corporate. Nobody will trust you. Okay. But I'd wear Oxford cloth shirts, slacks. I'd dress up. I didn't want to look like the PE coach from hell. Okay. And so I wanted to open the door to, by starting out that way. It was like an inverse pyramid. Do a talk, host a talk, do it, something like that. And it's like, hey, I'm going to meet with this guy. Then I have one shot to earn their trust. I got one shot. Because, buddy, you better show me something different because I've been down this road before. So that's when I listen. We just start out. I get some trust. And it's a process. It's a process. It is not easy. And so a lot of people in fitness they want to work with the motivated people already and drool all over and, you're the best and all that. And chances are that person really doesn't need a trainer. They already, some do, but no, it's a health coach that really cares about people, will use MI techniques, empathetical listening, because they may, now to get to your point, they may do group exercise. They may get engaged, but they're going to relapse. They need somebody that they trust to come back to and won't beat them up and going, where the hell have you been? See, where have you been? Mm-hmm. Where they can come back and, okay, can we get together again, do a rewind type thing? Yeah. What's going on? Then I get this. That's okay. You'll get back to it. That's all I've needed to do. That's all I needed to do. And they get back in track, knowing that they can relapse again. If you understand the trans theoretical model and understand it is absolutely normal. Where we have failed is somebody joins, puts their money down, comes for a little bit, like the New Year's resolution, and then they don't show up. And then it's like, well, I don't have time. I don't have time to worry about them. When you understand how that works, okay, then but we need more health coaches in the fitness arena. Not in worksite health promotion. Most health coaching now is virtual. So these health coaches I'm connected to now, it's all virtual. They can work from home. Okay. Yeah.
More isolation.
Wow. That's super helpful. And I think I'll unpack my thoughts and pass it to Donna. The one thing I like is we went over all the hormones that I wanted to touch on, but with the dopamine piece you're talking about there, Mike.
But that'll fade.
It will.
Remember, it'll go away.
That'll spike and drop. Drop.
Yes, you guys know.
I think it's really interesting that you, instead of starting with dumbbells 101, right, for your health and coaching class, you started with parenting, like something almost unexpected, instead of going so linear that in Don and I's world, like it's diabetes 101, like we're going to talk about blood glucose management or weight management or whatever the case is. Like that's what you're going to start with.
I occasionally would have you guys in. Oh, I better use the medical linear people and talk about that occasionally, because there's a few people that kind of want that stuff. Okay, good. Now let's do something fun and creative. Let's talk about playing music, arts, something like that. Your brain on music. Let's do something fun and creative.
Not that it's not important, right? We need, for disease state management, for folks to get better, they have to understand some basic aspects of how to monitor and take care of their disease overall. But you can see and feel the eyes glossing over, when you introduce subject matter like that. And so the one thing I'm hearing from what Donna was saying previously about, keeping sharp and having those deep, meaningful conversations, that's variable knowledge base, right? You're really trying to stretch yourself and think differently. Mike, your classes you're trying to give out there, you're trying to make people think and hear things that are different and unexpected.
Yes.
And there's a lot of research out there when it comes to what are the best things to be able to help your mind stay sharp in terms of types of exercise. It's usually those that are variable and ones that you have to think through the process of either playing or participating. And so the idea of delivering the unexpected, Mike, is something that I will hold on to from this conversation for sure. Donna, your thoughts?
For sure. So I just want to touch again on how your folks that go to your gym, they have walkers, some of them. I saw a video that someone was in a wheelchair and their caregiver would bring them. Yes. And I loved what the caregiver said was, I love bringing this, person here that I care for because I can now transfer her better because she's stronger, because she's doing some exercises. And I blew me away. Like I always say, anyone can move at any time, but to see, this combination of folks in your gym, in your fitness, over 50. And then also, and I think we have to remember too, that you don't have to be a rock star. You just need to be moving. And you have people boxing and trying to, we're talking about keeping sharper, trying to, boxing has a lot of work with the Parkinson's patients. I think it's the whole time they so like these are the patients or the people. They're not necessarily the patients, but the clients you're seeing that come in to see you guys, to train, to go to these classes. Are you getting recommendations? Is it just word of mouth? Like, how did this evolve? And you're telling me you have like all of these classes and everything else. Can you just share briefly, like, how'd you make it all work? How did it click?
Well, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was Jason Wallace. He's not the owner now. Nathan Haynes is now the owner. He's been the club manager since post-pandemic. But it was the original idea of Jason Wallace. He was doing a program under a health insurance plan, group exercise stuff. And there were enough people that were interested that he went ahead and he took a loan out, opened the original Fitness Over 50, and then it grew. And I actually presented for him at the old Fitness Over 50, several talks while I was still out at HP. And then he moved to the current location because it grew. And one important thing, word of mouth is important. Okay, word of mouth is huge. But so Fitness Over 50 is on the network, meaning Medicare. I'm sure you guys know this already. All the Medicare plans, they broker out. So you have silver sneakers is horrible.
Right. Yeah,
it's horrible. The reimbursement to the club is horrible. So when Kaiser owned Silver Sneakers, they would pay me to do talks. Okay. Well, Kaiser sold it to Tivity Health or Healthways. Tivity owns it. And now the reimbursement. So we're not on that network, but Silver Sneakers is one. What's big for us is Silver and Fit. and Renew Active, which United Healthcare, that's their, no, I'm not going to say anything more. That's their program. And then we get a few people from Moda. Kevin, you're familiar with Moda? They're out of Portland. I think they're in the Northwest. Yeah, we get a few like that, and then so that's big. So again, the way that works is we get about $4 a visit, but the club doesn't get paid until if they don't come in. But with some of the stuff I've done in the past, the current staff is great. I mean, it's so neat. You have to be comfortable working with older adults, especially if they're in wheelchairs or they've had a stroke or something like that. So we also get referrals by the local PTs and some of the doctors in the community.
Great.
And
Awesome.
People ask me, it's very common, like when I put stuff up on LinkedIn. Well, do you have a chain? Are you in Texas? Are you? No. It's an individual. It's an individual local mom and pop own. It's what I call a place. Yeah. Wow. Through the virtual world, and I don't know if I've shared with both of you, with LinkedIn. Even during the pandemic, I had speakers from all over the country. Anna Hall, who's right there in Boston on the purpose equation, she's presented a couple times for me. Speakers from all over. So it's been really interesting. They go, "Are you guys global? Are you national?" No, it's just bringing in some interesting people, and a lot of our members got very comfortable on Zoom. Mm-hmm. So talks I've hosted this year. I mean, I've had live. I had some people in it. There's a church right next to the fitness center, but most of the members are watching at home on Zoom. So that's how it's done now. A lot of online exercise classes for people that don't want to come in. I don't know if you saw some of those, but yeah,
that's
great.
That's interesting, Mike. Yeah,
kind of sounds like us, Kevin. Just having these wonderful speakers from all over speaking with us.
It's a blessing, sure. And Mike, I knew this one was going to run as long as it has, which is amazing.
Oh my gosh, time's just flying.
It's just flying, right? So the one last kind of question I had for you, Mike, we've focused on a lot of things. We'll do a quick recap for the audience here. We focused on a lot of things that a lot of clinicians can get a ton of value out of, right? Thinking about the way personal trainers have worked, the way it's evolved over time, the way that we can motivate people to initially start, some of the external and internal motivators, the trauma that can happen over the years that we have to be able to unpack and work through, all of those aspects, Mike has really highlighted. Mike, for your kind of closing statements, can you talk to the patients out there or just people in general, the general audience, say, here are the things you want them to know when it comes to this episode in particular?
Okay, so if I know you're interested, you probably are lacking a little bit of internal motivation, because most of what we give you, systems give you, is external, like we're going to pay you to exercise, we're going to give you a t-shirt or something like that, and we know those don't work. So in systems thinking, even if you're on Medicare, so because of Obamacare, all the healthcare systems have to offer wellness. Mm-hmm. So today's health coaches, I want to lead everybody to go to their healthcare carrier, and on the website somewhere find a health coach. Find a health coach that's certified. Motivational interviewing techniques is the key, and understand it's a process. Keep trying. Keep trying. Don't give up. I know you're interested, but it's just a process, and a good health coach will help you internalize those changes you'll eventually make. But it's not easy. It's a process.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Mike. And Donna, I'll pass it to you before we close it up.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us. I am going to keep on my motivation too, and hopefully others will. And I just really want to also cement that idea that we got to find enjoyment in what we're doing. If you're not finding enjoyment in it, it might not be the right thing for you. So
Exactly.
keep trying, like you're saying, and find the thing that provides enjoyment, because it will fulfill you even more so.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you so
Well,
much for that.
thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. Thank you, audience,
you.
for being here and for all the comments and viewers I'm seeing on my side of the screen. Appreciate all of you. Hope you grabbed a few good tidbits to be able to motivate yourself and look for that kind of next step in your fitness journey. I feel like it can be daunting, overall for folks to be able to start. And what a great way to be able to grab a hold of an expert like Mike or a health coach to be able to get those first steps in, and then you'll be off to the races. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys really soon. Thanks for joining the Med List.